So what makes a band Christian? We hear all the time, oh, they're a Christian band. Oh, they're a Christian artist. But what does that even mean? What exactly makes a band Christian? Well, I'm gonna break it down a little bit, but not in the way that people generally do. When most people say that somebody is a Christian band, it is because they are somehow connected to Christianity or to God. Doesn't matter how much, just that they are, or that they profess to be. Well, I'm just gonna start off by saying that's plain wrong. And actually, I find that it's mostly unbelievers who incidentally push this idea, which then stretches to Christians. For an unbeliever, it makes sense. Anybody who is somewhat connected to God and Christianity must be then a Christian band. But from a Christian perspective, this doesn't really make sense. So I'm gonna break this down into several categories, and this is more of a range than just simply the categories Christian and secular. But those categories are important, so they are within the range. A band that I would say is a completely Christian band are ones whose lyrics are solely about God, the Bible, Christian life, things of that nature. Easiest example of these are worship bands and artists. Ones like Chris Tomlin, Casting Crowns, Third Day, you can name a ton of others. The focus of their music is about God and the Bible. So I would describe these types of bands as Christian bands whose targeted audience is primarily Christian. Now, a secular band can be defined as a band whose lyrics are not Christian or are not about God and the Bible. We could give thousands of examples of these, like Taylor Swift, AC/DC, One Direction, Imagine Dragons, etc. Bands in this type are not Christian bands, even if some of their songs do reference a deity here and there. But then we have all the bands in between these two categories. We have a Christian band whose targeted audience is both Christian and unbelievers, who also proclaim the gospel message. Their music is a combination between Christianity, the Bible, God, and between other stuff. Now with this group, all their music will be clean, as in it won't be inappropriate. Though not all their songs are about God and the Bible, their focus is still to be God-pleasing. As well, these bands will proclaim the gospel message. Their focus is to draw in both believers and unbelievers so that they can share the word of God with them. In essence, their band is their ministry and their mission field. Two bands or artists that would fall into this category would be Manifest and Disciple. I have been to concerts from both of these, and they often share the gospel message in the middle of their concerts. Next group is secular bands who have Christians in them, and sometimes speak of God and the Bible in their music. These bands or artists would not be classified as a Christian band, since their focus is on the music and entertainment, and not necessarily using their music to preach the gospel. But members of the band may be Christian, and they may share the gospel with people afterwards, but that isn't the band's focus. A couple of bands and artists that fall into this category would be Need to Breathe and NF. Both of these are commonly called a Christian band/artist, but both have directly said that they are not. They are Christians, but they're not a Christian band. An example that is often used to try and explain this is that you don't have Christian plumbers, you just have plumbers. And though one might be a Christian, it doesn't make him a Christian plumber as if that's some sort of category. Now, there is a category of Christian bands like I showed before, but not every band that has Christians or even some Christian focus is a Christian band. So those are the four categories that I would set forward, which is somewhat of a range. But what about the people who are in the middle? What about the bands that sound Christian, but don't really have an obvious Christian message in their music, but do not really use their platform as a ministry to share the gospel in the same way that I described with the other Christian categories? A band that is often brought up in this area is Skillet. Reason for this is that many of their songs don't use the name God or Jesus, so a lot of people, generally unbelievers, think that they're talking about a girl or love. For example, You're Better Than Drugs, Addicted for Life, and Comatose, I Don't Ever Want to Wake Up Without an Overdose of You. The song could be talking about God, but at the same time, I know many unbelievers who take that song to be talking about love and relationships. So the music is in this weird spot where it could be talking about Christian things, and it can also be taken the other way. And so there's no clear gospel message presented. But in the case of Skillet, you have John Cooper, the lead singer of the band, who is a Christian and has at times used media to preach the gospel, as well as Christian values. So we have these bands that are often labeled as Christian, but many object to calling them this because they often lack the message of the gospel. This is where the category of a Christian band really falls apart. Where on the range does one move from secular into Christian, and vice versa? Where exactly can one set that line? I don't know. So for me, I clarify a band as Christian if their primary focus is gospel-centered. So whether that is a worship band or a rock band like Disciple, the point of them being a band is to use it as a ministry. That, I believe, is the distinction between a Christian band and a secular band. But what do you think? And for the record, I don't have anything against Skillet. I just use them as the example because they are the ones that I most often hear used as an example. I could have said the same thing about many bands. 1000 Foot Crutch, Family Force 5, Red, Demon Hunter. The list goes on. I've heard the same thing about all of these. I just most often hear it about Skillet because they are arguably the biggest. So subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and if you have an idea of what I should make a video on, leave it in a comment below. That's all for today, so until next time, remember to know the word, do the word, and share the word, but as always, we do it in love.